deck, and we are going to listen to that. That is our generation's structure in season, our generation's management approach, right? It is that our generation has got a lot in season that they are required to respond to and that they are required to address in season, right? But with our leading this generation conclusion talk of the year that we want to start fresh next year, we want to have our listeners and those people that really implement our advice and our opinion, that really listen to the structure that's required in our generation and that really abides to evokes way of leadership, right? Evokes leadership approach when a generation are challenged with so much aggression, with so much war, with so much disruption. Then my leadership education is exactly that of a generation that allows them an opportunity of choice. We started amazingly this year with our opportunity of choice discussion. We educated on our podcast amazingly this year that our opportunities that we are granted in Hyundai is our opportunities that allows us for the next day, right? It is that our seasons discussion really conclude that allows a generation to the directness and the requirement to reprimand, but the requirement to allow ourselves to be in the currentness of our generation's choices. It is that so much of our generation finds themselves working on historical work, right? And work that parents left for them many years ago. So much of our generation's processes are for years from our generation's day in the currentness of our season and in the currentness of our years. So much of the aggression in our generation currently, of the wars in our generation currently, is not necessarily only the poverty circumstances, right? Because remember, poverty is that Rabia Eli says that on any given day, what are you granted, right? What is humanity? Let me just quickly check that. What are humanity granted on any given day, right? We say the sun comes forth and our generation are provided for. But we learn that while we are being provided for, we have the requirement to really allow ourselves to hold on to what we have and to go on with that in our day and to allow ourselves to listen to what is it that's very nice and windy outside. And I couldn't have sat out inside because I couldn't get the light very nice, but the requirement for our generation to listen to what are we provided in any given day and how to go on with that, rather than wanting to find yourself in war because of what you require in season. You allow yourself to listen to what are you provided in the currentness of your day, and you allow yourself to go on with that. We educated on our cooking choices here, that on any given day that we do not have what we want on a Sunday, and then we cook what we have and we educate our generation. This is what we have today. And this is our financial circumstances because of the employment. And this is where we find ourselves at in a generation today. Yes, a Vogue business might also want all the glossinesses that everyone has and all the glamour about it. But a Vogue business can only afford this today. And remember, we are in a generation where the husband works. There's lots of aggression sometimes in the house and in the marriage. And Rabia Elise is that is what is required for Rabia Elise to have in a season, rather than what Rabia Elise wants in a season. And that's where everyone in our generation needs to find themselves at. We all need to find ourselves at that. And that is that even though there's a lot that we want to be aggressed with, even though there's people in the world that say they're not going to share their monies around, they're going to hold on to their $1 billion lifestyles into the $1 billion in their pockets, even though there's people in the world that says the world can go in war for poverty, but they really going to hold on to their finances and they don't want to share the one with the other. And then we have to, where we are at in our circumstances, educate ourselves to allow ourselves that opportunity of choice to rather decide, are we going to get aggressed with people who's now not providing and really over providing for the one household, the other, or are we going to go on with our day and go on with our educations and go on in the currentness of our seasons with what we are provided, yes, and with where we are at in our seasons. And if circumstances, we always say, gets challenging, there's countries that provides financial support for unemployed people. If circumstances in countries gets challenging, there's ways of traveling out of countries when the circumstances are challenging. When there's war in countries, we always advise rather travel out of the country until the war is really has ended or until the situation gets under control, right? So it is that people can decide to hold onto the house and to the car and to whatever they want, or they can decide to go on with their day and to travel to another country and to be fine. Yeah, in Sudan, there were Sudanian people. When the war started, the army made provision for them to travel to America, right? The Russo-Ukrainian war, when the war started, there was provision made for the people to travel who wanted to travel out of the country. And so that is there where the army and everyone, sometimes in all the aggressions and arguments that we do not know what everyone is fighting about, and that they are sometimes fighting over a piece of land, and sometimes it's historical processes of religious historical processes. And then because our generation do not really know what the aggression is about, is at least under is what we want to discuss today with our management structure. We have learned that the requirement for us to listen to the processes in our generation, it is that I travel to Dubai, and Dubai is the hotel industry, the center of the hotel industry, and Dubai is the hotel industry, the center of the hotel industry. And from the hotel industry, there's the educations that goes to the different countries, that includes restaurant educations, that includes the different restaurant businesses. There's the office structure in that exactly educates us the structure required that includes every country, because there's certain countries, there's the casino industries, there's the casino industries, right? The casino country, someone mentioned it this morning, and industries, right? The casino country, someone mentioned it this morning, and the reason is not to allow ourselves to listen to what is happening in certain countries, so that other countries doesn't find themselves excluded and in poverty. So it's explained in certain countries, and there's certain groups of people that are working on the processes amazingly, but there's countries that have been excluded from the table itself, and from that is how our humanity on earth being provided for. And that's what I want everyone to listen to and to hold on to, is that I do not want to say a lot today. Going to explain a lot, and I don't want the video to go halfway with what we are discussing, and I do not want the video to be disturbed. So I'm going to just say that the management of all of those that I have mentioned now, officers, and that's what you call an office in our generation, are minutes only to provide for certain countries. Other countries are required to cooperate and to find out how processes managed, and how countries that find themselves less provided and disadvantaged, how they can be included in the information sharing and the communication processes of the Office of Humanity. So the Chinese government cooperates with America a lot, with Dubai a lot, with South Africa a lot, with New Zealand a lot, Australia a lot, and the Office Environment of Humanity. And the countries that are not yet included in that, there's countries to contact to find out how the office businesses work in humanity, right? There's that includes the hotel industries, the restaurant industries in your countries, and the construction industries. And every country has representative management leaders that manages the processes. How does I've been employed at Nibblebits, I've been employed at Wollambaldit, I've been employed at Auckland, New Zealand, and I've learned who's working where, right? So there's lots of international people in Auckland, New Zealand also that are in office, and we have learned how our processes and how our countries provided for. And we have not learned by the information that was directly said in with how I'm explaining it today, but we have learned by the communication, who's communicating where. When the countries allow themselves to listen to the office structure of our generation, then the countries would not want to find themselves so much aggressed, because there's a half of a generation of people working together and half of a generation of people that doesn't realize that the office structure in our generation is exactly that. And that's what I want generation to be firm on when we relay information. It is one thing for a BI list to say that all the things that I've learned in my years, I'm not going to share it with anyone. And when the YouTube video are disturbed, I'm going to just log out and end my Evoke education. But it's another thing for a BI to switch the news channel on and another country is bumped up because the process only includes certain countries, right? It is one thing for a BI list to say that I'm not even going to switch on Al Jazeera anymore, because who want to look at certain people that finds there's a Chinese government who manages office with certain countries. South Africa is one of the countries that the Chinese government manages office with, and the education system, the university systems, and the processes are structured in that way. And when countries really listen to it, then the whole world, it's a process that includes every one of humanity. And there's people in China that really wants to include everyone on earth, but they are getting a lot of aggressions from certain people and they are being disturbed a lot about it. So therefore, I'm explaining what I have been educated, why I have learned, why the world are so aggressed, right? And what I can share with rather we can share information if we can, and we can provide the one for the other, that is the necessary education in all of the offers and the structured processes of humanity on earth. It is not difficult processes, it's very easy. It includes everything of humanity. I've mentioned it on my yesterday's Facebook recent video, and everyone can go and listen on it. What I'm explaining on yesterday's video is the 5 aggressions that our generation finds themselves in, and the arguments and the wars that our generation has. And one of the aggressions that I've not mentioned is the historical processes that some countries and religious people want to hold on to, and the education of our generation, that is all the colors that need to be included in all the countries. And that's all that I want to mention today with management structure, the requirement for our generation to relay information to where it's required to be relayed, to share information to countries that requires to learn how the processes are managed and how offers and how business and how the finances are viewed. There's a lot of aggressions that are sometimes oppressed by certain countries because certain countries want the processes so, and certain countries wants to punish other countries, but they have young people like a Rabia Elise that are not difficult, that are working on those processes to assist countries where they are required to be assisted with, and with the education. They have a lot of arguments with countries that wants to blame it on China. I always say, don't blame it. Look on all the things in our houses and look on the label and all of the designs and learn how much they have inputted into our generation. And that's for our generation where we are at to communicate the information in a way that's non-abusive the one to the other, so that the Chinese countries doesn't find and under argument a lot and under war aggressions a lot because other countries wants to fight with them about the processes. And therefore, we are going to conclude our discussion and say that listen to what we are educating in our generation and communicate with people who want to communicate information through, not with people who wants to hold information and not say to our generation how finances are provided amongst countries, but work with people who wants to share information and who's not endangered while they're sharing information. So for work business, I find myself very free and I can share information how I want to. Other people might find themselves endangered and they are not allowed to share the information the way Rabia Elise can in this season share the information, and where I find myself at in the currentness, and people can listen to what are required. That's where we are at with today's discussion. That's what I wanted to say with our management structure.